What is enough for you? And no, I'm not talking about money and materials and experiences. I'm talking about signs and symptoms and that voice in your head screaming to do something different. Today, we're becoming obsessed with signs, and whatever that means to you, that works for me. Some of these, honestly, are more symptoms than anything else, but I'm going to warn you that this episode might make you really get honest with yourself. And so, if you're not in a place ready to do that, then go listen to another episode. There's plenty of amazing ones that are a little bit more positive and dreamy. But I just watched a video of one of my future guests that they posted on Instagram, and they were sharing a story about how they had a dream. Basically, after having this dream, they woke up, they quit their job. Things from the dream happened in real life. And right, that was to them a very clear sign and the sense of ease to change what they were doing. And it made me think about my own dreams and how I have very vivid dreams, and my dreams are a huge signal to me. Now, it's not always a sign, or I don't really have like that type of vision-esque dream necessarily, but my dreams to me are a huge signal of the emotions and the processing that I'm doing subconsciously and not allowing for actively. And that's one of my signals that I've kind of had throughout my life that I've learned to understand. A bad dream for me is not coming out of nowhere. A bad dream for me is coming out of feelings of being anxious. I often say I had an anxiety dream. That's kind of how I refer to them. Sometimes they're as simple as being back in high school. And for some reason, it's like I've already graduated college, but now I'm back in high school because some credit didn't go through and I can't find my classroom and I haven't been all semester and I don't know what's on the exam. I don't even know what classroom. I don't even know what class it is. And I know that that is just this signal that I need to take a deeper look at what's happening in my life. I'm starting to really feel pressure, some anxiety, could be about work, personal, family, anything. But to me, that's a pretty strong signal that I've gotten used to. But there's a lot of ways that our bodies, our brains, our subconscious can speak to us. Maybe that's God speaking to you, the universe, your intuition, all of these things coming together. But one that I am very aware of for myself is complaining, especially when I'm not doing anything to change the situation, right? Just expecting life to be better without, changing the job or whatever it is that I have control over. Now, again, that might just be the habit that we have, right? We get in this habit of looking on the negative side and complaining and kind of acting as if we don't have power over it. And so if that's how you normally act, not saying it is, but if that's how you normally act, then maybe it's not necessarily a symptom telling you to change a situation, but it is a pretty good opportunity to look at if you are truly building a life that is worth obsessing over. And that always, to me, starts with becoming obsessed with the life you already have. Doesn't mean all of it, but the fact that you can go on a walk, you can go outside, you can eat a great meal, you can try a new snack, you can talk to your friend, whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be the job and the house or the relationship. If those things really do need a change, that's okay. That's kind of what this podcast is all about, is helping to identify what actually does need a change and what we're maybe just unhappy with for the sake of being unhappy. But if you're not somebody who often complains and you find yourself complaining more and more, again, could be a signal, symptom, sign to take a look at an area of your life to see why you're leaning on the complaining, unhappy side of things. To be fair, sometimes it's hormonal. Sometimes you just need to eat, sleep, or take a shower. But sometimes there's something underneath that. Another thing I've recently learned is instead of blaming my hormones and period for having a really PMSy, emotionally difficult time around my period, I'm also learning that that is another symptom of where I am mentally, emotionally, my nervous system, and what I might be suppressing instead of experiencing and allowing. I definitely am somebody who's just learned in the last, 5 years how to allow for my emotions. Not that I never did, but it was not unusual growing up to be told I shouldn't bottle things up. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm just choosing to show up happy instead of give in to the negative. But the problem with that is that it does bottle up. And as I believe it was Carrie Ann, which if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen, who mentioned that emotions and feelings are just kind of like those machines at the M&M store, where whatever is inside of them is going to come out as soon as the valve is open. And if there's a few M&Ms, only a few will come out. But if there's a lot of M&Ms, a lot of emotion, all different emotion, it's all going to come rushing out. And it, again, is this symptom signal that I look for that I'm starting to understand more and more about my own life. All these little things where I can check in with myself. How am I really doing, right? Life moves fast. It's hard to always take time to check in and not let those little things bottle up, even when you feel pretty good. And that's also coming from, like I said, a recovering bottle it up, I feel fine person. Those are the first examples that come to mind because those are the ones that I notice. And in a year, there's going to be more that I noticed, I'm sure. But what is it for you? Maybe it's when you start to snap at people in your life. That's a pretty good symptom that something is maybe not where you want it to be. Maybe it's feeling like you have no energy, no social capacity, no time. You either are feeling alone, like you can't, even when you're just with yourself, that feeling of lonely instead of feeling of companionship with yourself. Maybe it's avoiding things, right? All of these, like I said, I'm not necessarily talking about external signs or even intuition and God signs, but more the symptoms, the signals that we can look for in our own lives. This is why I had a little disclaimer at the beginning, is because it is an invitation to get really real with yourself. You don't have to have answers here. You don't have to know what to do next, but to pay attention and understand that the complaining, the night terrors, the snapping at your family, the exhaustion that just never goes away no matter what you do, could be, and probably are, a signal that there's something a little deeper that we need to deal with. There's an awareness we need to bring ourselves to. There might be some trauma that needs to get worked out, some healing that needs to be done, or a change that needs to happen, right? That might be a relationship that isn't serving you. If you feel like you've lost yourself, lost your spark, don't feel excited to do things. Could be a job. To me, that's always the one that comes up, right? Like, I haven't said this in a while, but I try not to be anti 9 to 5 on Becoming Obsessed. But I was never a big 9 to 5er. I probably worked a 9 to 5 for a total of less than a year in my whole life because I saw so many people go to a job and then complain about it. And I just wanted more control over my situation than that. So I said, you don't necessarily have to know the answer or do anything except look for these symptoms, look for these signals, and then you do have to actually do something eventually, which is decide to take ownership of it. That is actually what this whole podcast is about, is a reminder or maybe even an introduction, an offer, permission that your life is yours and no one else can live it for you. And in my heart of hearts, I just want more people, but specifically women, to live a life that they love, to feel safe in themselves and feel like they have the power to change the things in their life that really do not serve them, do not work for them, and keep them unhappy. And then once you decide that you want to change, that's when the long, hard work starts. And it can be slow. It doesn't need to be fast. It is your journey to take at the speed you want it to. And we're here to help you. Me, all of the community and guests of Becoming Obsessed, because all of us have something, right? Something that's a little out of whack, out of alignment. Could be big, could be small. I've had relationships and living situations that were really, having a negative impact or just not serving me, that I felt were not for me. But it's interesting because the reason I pushed record on this is that idea of dreams, and that even if it's not a vision and it doesn't happen in real life, in awake life the next day, it's still a signal. And I have dreams that will be reoccurring and then take a few years off and then pop back up. And I have anxiety dreams that are way worse than others. And it's interesting for me to think about it in these terms that my dream life is just a representation of my awake life, the fears that I have, the things I'm anxious about playing out in my dreams. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Now let's go get obsessed.